gathering, so don't use the M word. Just wanted to do something informal, just, like I said, kind of relax things, loosen up, improve culture. You know, it's okay to drink at work or at the office if we're not working. Um, so, you know, the concept was a lot of us work in different departments here, maybe have worked here 10, 15, 20 years and aren't really sure everything that we do here. You know, I've just recently taken on a business development role. I'm pretty well versed in mechanical. I know enough of electrical to be dangerous and maybe make some toast. Um, but I want to learn that stuff. So when I'm talking to a customer or a customer's talking to me and asking me questions about, you know, structure, I want to be a little more well versed in that. There's just a lot of things that this company does that I feel like, you know, you could work here forever, and if you don't ask, you're never gonna know. I thought you might be in a support role like payroll or accounting or something, and you're just not really sure. You know, worked here a long, long time, but I'm not really sure what we do. You know, I just make sure guys get paid once a week. So anyway, that was the concept behind this. It's sort of evolving. We're open to suggestions, everything up to the drink menu. If there's a beverage you like and we don't have it, let us know, and maybe next month we'll make sure we have it. Haven't really, so our first week we kind of talked about how projects and how work comes to P1, so how we go about securing work, and had some in-depth conversations about being on bid lists or going out and marketing for work, and you know how service intertwines with all that. And then we started taking some suggestions on, had a pretty good turnout at the first meeting, had some suggestions. Some people from various departments showed up and said, man, this is a really cool forum. I've been wanting to talk about, you know, what we do in controls, and haven't really had the forum to do that, so it'd be great to have that opportunity. So I know we're going to talk about controls at some point. We're going to talk about our virtual design and construct department, or VDC. We're going to talk about our fab shops. That one will be interesting. I mean, for the interns that are here, you're going to get a fab shop tour, but it may be such that you worked here for a long, long time and you've never taken a fab shop tour. We're going to do it in kind of this gathering and let Jeremy talk about it, but it may make sense, or we may decide after that, hey, we probably ought to do kind of open it to the company, come take a fab shop tour and have a couple of those dates so you can learn about it. It's really an impressive resource that we have. I'm trying to think of some of the, Union was another one that came up, and I think the interns have gotten that spiel a little bit. But again, this is real conversational. We want people to ask questions. We don't want one person to sit here and just blab the whole time. So we did have some good questions in our first meeting. You know, somebody asked about, you know, I know we do electrical, but do we install the lights? You know, and it's like, yeah, we do all. It started talking about how we, in plumbing and the electrical, that yeah, we do all the in-wall rough, and then you know the sheetrock people come in and do their thing, and then the people come and mud and tape, and then people paint, and then we come back, and then we install the fixtures in the bathrooms, and we hang the lights and all that. So it was informative for them to find out, you know, what really our whole scope was. Today, by request, and also because I've learned a lot more about it recently, and it's cool as hell, we're going to talk about architectural metals. Architectural metals is one of our most recent adds to the P1 book of services. So Alan Suppley runs our Arch Metals group, and he's going to chat about that. Again, if you have questions as we go, feel free to just raise your hand and say, I don't get it. So no such thing as a dumb question. Thanks.
All right, stay there. And I'm going to sit, so public speaking is something that, even though I'm 57 years old, it's still kind of sometimes stressful. So thank you all for being here. I don't know if it's because of the beer or at the end of the day, you don't want to get out of work, or me, but I'm going to take it it's me and you're interested in this, so thank you. Just a little bit about where we come from. Some of you guys, Ted Suppley started here before with P1 a couple years before I did. We both started at A. Zahner. If anybody in Sheep Mill in here knows Zahner, that's our great-grandfather's company. Ted started there a year before I did. He went through the apprenticeship program, and then I went to college and got out and got on there as a PE, is what we call it now, as assistant project manager, and then just kind of advanced. We both spent 10 years there and branched out on our own. Fagan at that point in time, yeah.
Your degree's in architectural metal?
My degree actually is in business administration and accounting. I have 2 degrees. I had no idea that I was going to get into the family business when I got out. I thought I was going to play football after I got out. And like an idiot, that didn't happen. So anyway, fell into this, and then just it actually, it was a dream, it's been a dream come true since then. That was 34 years ago. So, the architectural metal, you know, is it's got all kinds of different faces. The primary face of architectural metal, sheet metal, is flashings, you know, roofing, metal wall panels, you know, keeping the building dry. That's the first learning stage of everybody that's gotten into this, that's gone as far and as deep as what we've gone into it. That's where it all kind of starts. When 4 years ago now, it's been 4 years already, back in May, when P1, we started this division, and they kind of, Smitty and Bruce and the ownership group kind of took Ted's advice when he was here for a couple of years, kind of picked his brain, and they decided to pull the trigger, and here we go. And, you know, I think the first year we were in business, we did a little over $8 million, so that was a good thing. Our customer base, we started working with Disney about 28 years ago, 29 years ago, with Universal Studios, and then those relationships that we built from working with the Disney folks has kind of taken us down this creative path. And yeah, I probably ought to see what I'm looking at a little bit here too. So I'm gonna kind of veer off to the side here so I can still see everybody. Have we got stuff? Yeah, go to the stuff, the early stuff. Go down to the very bottom slides, the early stuff.
When we talk about architectural metal, then do we do the mundane architectural metal too?
Well, here's the
Or do we
deal.
just kind of do that?
From a standpoint,
Creative stuff.
from a standpoint of the Kansas City market, okay, the margins on that stuff are crap, and the competition in this area, us and Zahner, we rarely do anything in Kansas City unless it's ornate, okay. I think the last thing Zahner did in town that I wasn't part of was the Performing Arts Center, the stainless steel on that. There's a job coming up at the Casey Zoo, the aquarium project, that's all zinc, and we helped do the budgets on that. So going back to the original question, do we dabble in that stuff? We don't even pursue it. The margins are shit, and the margins in what you're seeing here on the board are good. So, and we get those calls every day. So we hardly ever take a bid request from anybody.
So how do you differentiate, when you talk about architectural metals, it's a big category. What's the subcategories in architectural metals? What's the
Flashings and sheet metal, wall panels, standing seam roof, and then custom.
custom?
And we're on that custom high-end side, okay? Now, there's two paths to that as well. If you're familiar with Zahner and all the stuff that they do, the last project I did before I left there was the Seattle Music Experience. It's a Paul Allen job. It's a big museum, and the architect's Frank Gehry. If you look up Frank Gehry, it looks like he sneezed on a napkin, and that's what his building looks like. That building is several different colors of stainless steel. It's undulating all over the place. It's a cool building, but it had, I mean, from an architectural standpoint, it's beautiful. The inside space, I don't know how anybody'd ever do anything because there's not a square wall anywhere, right? And we've gone down parallel paths since we left. Ted and I had our own business for 10 years before we sold it, but we were in parallel paths where people that didn't like working with them for whatever reason or another would call us because they knew us, and we would compete against them. There'd only be a couple people in the United States that were allowed to bid the job, us and them. So, and then we kind of just veered from that because it's like, okay, you stay in your lane and we'll stay in ours. Like they don't mess with Disney. Even though we started it there, you know, they don't mess with them. You take that, we'll take this, and it's kind of just like a gentleman's agreement between cousins to stay away from each other. So, did that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do we have any at Tomorrowland in there? We don't, do we? Yeah, go down to the very bottom. Okay, so we started off, my oldest son's 29, and he's a PE for us, actually. But that's the first project we did with Disney. That's Tomorrowland renovation in Orlando. So the thing you see on the front, that's the Gateway Arch, that's the front of Tomorrowland, and everything you see through that area except for the ride at the very end, the Astro Orbiter, we did every part of it. We were the general contractor, we were the architect and engineer of record. So we had structural steel, architectural metal, acrylic, fiberglass, we had everything in our realm.
Is that the one that's got the stuff inside those orbs?
It does, up inside of here, up inside this dome, there's a bunch of fiberglass. And kind of an interesting story. It was the first design build that Disney did, very first one. And I have, it's kind of like if anybody played sports or anything, you had a group of people that kind of went through a really tough situation, and at the end, you're friends forever. Well, I've got about 6 people that we worked on this, and we were all in our mid-20s when we started this job, or mid to late 20s, and all of us are, you know, very close us to this day. One guy, the architect, was a starting tail or wingback at the University of Texas with Earl Campbell. He just passed away 2 years ago. But you go and see all these guys who went to the funeral, it's all hugs, you know, because that's just how it was. But anyway, we're in the middle of designing this, and that fiberglass inside that acrylic, we're in Disney, we're in Orlando. You know, sun's beating down on that, it's going to melt that. And we realized that, so we designed fans in there to pull and draw the air out and pump air into it to keep it from melting everything. So, really neat deal. Then let's kind of go from the bottom up. Let's go to the next slide. This is a blue mirrored stainless steel sphere. It's the Museum of Science and Industry in Tampa, Florida, right across from Busch Gardens. That's the I.M. Pei, the architect on that, but that's blue mirrored stainless steel, and that's a faceted. It's a sphere, but it's faceted. It's not compound curved. So the structural system behind that, we design everything from the primary support where we're attaching everything out. That's all our design, right? So the iterations we go through working with the architects and then our engineers, that we have third-party engineers that we work with to get the design right before we get to the actual product. Now, it's kind of interesting. The bottom two jobs, you know, those were done in the late 90s, early 2000, and early 90s, not 2000, early 90s, but about 92 to 97. Everything was drawn in CAD on that. So you know, if we had what we're doing with now with modeling, and you know, we use SolidWorks modeling now for everything, it would have been a hell of a lot faster. We were doing on this job laying out where we were using a company called Spatial Positioning. Well, basically they're triangulating every point. We were putting points on the building and shooting the laser on it, and it was triangulating everything to give us all our layout points. We do it a hell of a lot different now, right? But that's kind of the place we were at that point in time. Ted simply kind of walked back in. So if he corrects me on something, it's because I'm filling your ass full of smoke, and he's going to tell the truth. So
For those of you that are interns, are you taking SolidWorks in school?
you should
that's
be.
what I thought.
Please take SolidWorks.
I'm an Archie.
Okay.
So-
But at the engineering schools now, they're teaching SolidWorks, right? Yeah. We had an intern here from Kansas State.
We have
la-
Haley?
No, I had another one here
Okay.
just for the holiday about a year ago, and they were doing SolidWorks and was really interested in what you were doing. But prior to meeting with Alan and downloading a bunch of what you're hearing now, and some of these stupid questions that I'm asking, I know the answer. I know he didn't study architectural metal, but I just thought so he could share with you all. But prior to this, kind of my knowledge of our architectural metal division was, yeah, we made the guns for Star Wars, and we made this really cool flag over here. So when I meet with Alan, it's like, hey, how did you come up with these colors? And so it's interesting to hear, like this color, that's actually a stainless that's dipped in an acid bath or something?
It's light interference. So if you're looking at a rainbow, right, you see all the colors, it's just light interference, right? So you take stainless steel and they start building up film on it it's in a chemical bath and electricity. And the longer it's in there or the less time it's in there, it builds up the film. So whatever thickness that is, it gets on there is the color you see, right? So we've done stuff in Jeddah for Turkey Ben Nasser, a 20,000 square foot beach house he had in Jeddah. And it was all colored titanium, where they took titanium and colored it the same process. And actually did a rainbow. We did column covers inside that rainbowed from different colors on and graduated all the way up.
Wow.
Is that a cheap building material?
I'm sorry?
Cheap building material?
It's
Cheap building material?
Yeah, it is. Cheapest out there.
So do we, in our facility that you have over east, do we do all this work, or do we contract them?
No, we
for
do
someone to
everything
this?
in-house.
Everything's done over there?
Everything's done in-house.
Okay.
So
Real quick, to Glenn's question on that job, I'm sure you remember.
which one? Jeddah?
Turkey, yeah. They wanted all the scrap.
Yeah, no kidding.
They wanted all the grout off the back end shear.
But you know, the price of wood has gotten so high, it might be reasonable. You're gonna think about redoing your house.
Well, the interesting thing about that job, titanium comes real thin, and we're making wall panels and column covers, and we had to laminate it to galvanize. We had to laminate it to something that had a thermal coefficient that's real close, and use 3M product 1357 contact adhesive. Well, we sent all the column covers over at one point in time. They all have to go in a container, and all have to ship, and all have to get off the boat somewhere in Arabia and get sent over to his place in Jeddah, right? And all the stuff that went over the column covers had no problems whatsoever. It was in the wintertime. Summertime, they let the stuff sit on the dock and stuff like that. It delaminated in the crate. The glue heated up. Oh yeah, it was a mess. And that was right after one of the wars started, and they called up and asked how much it'd take for us to go over there, and we were telling them like $1 million a day. No, we'll take care of it. So.
Send us the glue.
Do you guys have some kind of materials engineer or chemistry person you consult for creating those kind of films and stuff, or is that all standard processes?
You talk about the colors on the material?
Yeah.
No, there's those companies that do that.
Oh, okay.
We buy that. We can buy that material on the flat sheet,
Gotcha.
right? They're a product.
But to provide scale to that one picture, those blue panels are what, 3 foot by 3 foot, or?
No, roughly probably 2 by 3, 2 by 2.
Okay.
They're all triangles, kind of like a soccer ball.
Okay,
Or soccer balls kind of octagons, but
Yep.
kind of that same type of deal.
Yep.
The next project is Mission Space at Epcot. Everything you see in this picture, this is kind of distorted because this was the cover of Disney's, what do you call it? Their shareholders report, right? But we didn't do this down here, but everything else you see we built, right? You kind of can see some construction pictures. You can see the sphere. It's a 48-foot diameter compound curve. So we started off with dead soft aluminum. Dead soft is zero temper. And we pressed all the panels so they're truly curved. There's no segmentation of that. The structural steel behind there is all 8-inch diameter tube, right? Yep. And it was all rolled, and we've got plates on it that accept an aluminum T extrusion, right? That went on. Radial. If you zoomed in on those the radial lines are kind of like this all the way around there to form the panels. The panels are kind of a rectangle, kind of a trapezoid actually. But the aluminum T's were there, and then the aluminum panels were stud welded and put on through those T's and nutted off on the back side, and then they finished the walls off, right? The paint on that was $1,200 a gallon, PPG Chrome Illusion. It changes colors. That color was developed for that job, and then no more. And the guy that painted, I don't know if you ever run into Daco Painting, he painted them for us, and he races, at that time he'd had 360 Sprinters, and he raced in the super truck out at I-70, and he painted his truck that color, and Karma bit him in his ass because as soon as he raced it, he turned it into the wall. So, kind of interesting. This is a project in Natchez. It's at Baton Rouge. It's Galvez Plaza. There's another name for that. What was it? They got a name for it. But anyway, that's a stage, and everything you see there, that's stainless steel panels. There's 4 mounting points at the very bottom, right? And that extends out about 85, 90 feet from the base to the other edge. And you can see it's got lights, the stage lights on it. But those are all stainless steel panels. Structural steel underneath, we had all of it. We designed all of it. That particular job, we subbed out the steel to KC Structural Steel. Our friends own that, the Olas. So we subbed it out because we didn't have the capability at that time to do that.
Don't you have a gal that does a lot of your structural design? work
We
for you?
have one person, KH Engineering, and she actually was down the street. She just moved a block away from here.
Yeah.
But we've been working for her. She's been working with us for over 20 years.
What happens when she retires?
She's got people working for her, so,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. You're
And
good.
she's starting to slow down a little bit. She's about my age, so, but it's good. We kind of actually we're doing about $6 million worth of work right now at Ritz-Carlton Kapalua in Hawaii. And one of the projects had Haley Linder, our intern. She drew it, and then she went over and worked with Kathy, because she's a mechanical engineer,
Yeah.
or will be. And she went over and just finished up working with Kathy, doing the
Okay.
calcs underneath her, so it was kind of a neat experience for her.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of getting into the stuff well, one more. This is the Edison restaurant down in Disney Springs. Disney Springs just renovated everything, from front to back, everything down in Orlando has been totally done. And this is a restaurant called Disney Springs, or Edison. The guy that did it owned one. He bought an old steam power plant in L.A. It took him 5 years to gut it and basically utilize everything in it and created a restaurant, right? He wanted this speakeasy type of deal and the kind of the steampunk look. So he did that. Then we went in and took this space. It was existing space, and all the columns. They opened up all the atrium, so it made it open, right? And all the existing steel columns, we went in and made it look like the big beams. You know, all this structure all the way around. And then that clock's actually functioning. That's a 10-foot diameter clock. These gears all are meshed and do run 120 second hand. So it's actually functioning. We took the owner bought an old tower clock, 4-sided tower clock, said, hey, could you utilize this in building this? And say, sure, we'll take the motor and we'll put it in the center. And prop it up and run a shaft out to the real clock there. And the real clock's digital, about that big, that runs that big thing, so. But that's all blackened steel and brass. Anyway, getting into stuff since we've been here at P1, this is kind of these are two of the sub-projects under the Ritz-Carlton that we're doing. The first deal, these are the artist renderings, and we've got this is the trellis at the main, you come in the main hotel right here, and then there's two big branches that go down to the ocean. But this is a big trellis that's made out of steel, aluminum panels, aluminum tube, and glass, and we've got the whole thing. The aluminum, the big thing now, I don't know if you've seen any of this or not, but they wanted it to all be made out of ipe, which is an island type wood. I don't know, I've never seen it in person, but you've got to oil it constantly to keep it from graying out. So now there's companies out there, and I don't know if you've ever seen metal that's painted that got wood grain to it. That's everything we're doing right now. It's a company it's called Decoral that makes it all. And it's kind of interesting. They came in and met with us, and they powder coat it first, just a normal powder coat. And they've got several different grains and looks and stuff. They can mimic any wood there is. So they take it and they powder coat it first and run it through all the oven and heat it up. You know, powder coat, it's electrostatic. They throw the powder on it, they melt it, it comes out, it dries, and it's done. Then they stick it back in and heat the paint up again and get it, or before that they bag it. I'm sorry, they bag it. But when I say they bag it, the wood grain is a dye that's in this plastic bag, and they put it down, they suck all the air out and vacuum tight to the wood, right? And the way they got explained, there's 4 mil of paint on there, and then when they put it back in the oven and melt it, that ink goes down into the paint, 2 mil. It's sublimation. So if anybody's seen high school football uniforms, or any uniforms now, they're you know, the old tackle twill's done and the iron on, all that's done, it's all in the fabric, that's sublimation. So that's what they do. And they can sublimate anything. Bruce is wanting them to do, he's got a guest house thing on some land, he wants it, you can take a picture. You could take, you know, a picture of anything, right? Send it to them, they can sublimate that onto metal.
Wow.
So, this is a project we did at Disney Springs, finished it up, right, it was during COVID, but that's M&M Mars, the peanut, M&M peanuts.
It's the metal panels on the yellow arch and what?
All the yellow that you see and the canopy. The silver off to the side that was a cement panel. So that we didn't do that, but we did all the yellow. And it's the panels we've got a system called drop and lock. So there's a channel on the building that we put on, and it's slotted, and the panels have hardware on it that you take and drop and engage. It's pretty easy. But all this radial here on the edges, you could stretch form certain shapes, right? Certain limit to it. It's pretty expensive because you got to buy a mold and everything, and you can stretch it. But that's all welded up, so it's a shape that's 8 by 8 by 8 basically, all welded up on a curve and polished out. So.
Do we make the M&M?
I'm sorry?
Do we do the M&M?
No, that's signage company. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that an M&M's project, a Mars project?
That was M&M Mars. That's at Disney Springs.
But you did it for M&M, for Mars?
Yes. Yeah. They're a third party. We didn't do it for Disney, but it's on Disney property, so it's just third party. This is another third party job we just finished up. Right after COVID, we finished it up. It got shut down, but this is a restaurant. You saw the Mission Space job we did. We finished that in 2000. This is a Mission Space restaurant. So everything you see, stud framing, everything. They gave us a shell inside this building. And really the story behind the thing is you get in, there's these 2 big transporters that are about 20-foot diameter, and the restaurant's in space. So you get in these transporters, and they rumble and shake, and you look in the middle, and there's, it makes you feel like it's moving up on a tether.
It's like the roundy ride where you stick to the wall. And
Yeah, the finish fling.
And if they tip it a degree or two, it feels like you're accelerating.
That's Mission Space.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
But this, it doesn't move at all. It's just, there's sound that moves, just shakes, but it's not spinning or anything like that.
Okay.
But it makes you feel like you're going up, the whole illusion of it. And you look down and the earth gets small, and you look up through glass, and the restaurants, you're coming up on the restaurant, right?
It's getting larger. Yeah.
Yep. So you come in, and then there's an arrival lobby. You come out, all the pictures aren't here obviously, but there's an arrival lobby. You come out and everything, it's circular. Then you walk through this tunnel, right? And then you look over here to the side, there's a portal right here that if you look in there, the old Illusion 2 mirrors, Carnival mirror, you know, like about 10 feet apart. And there's a big cylinder inside there with live plants in it. So it looks like it goes on forever, and that cylinder's spinning, so you're growing all your vegetables and things in space. And then you come out and you come into, and we pre-erected everything down here, but you can't see all the panels. You come into this big wine cellar. It's a circular wine cellar. And then you come out of that and you come into the dining room here. In the dining room, you can see these are big 15-foot by 15-foot windows that we did all the columns and the surround and everything. And it's on a curve 2 directions, but you're looking out into space through there. So they do 2 shows a day there, and it's about $400 a person to go in. So it's pretty expensive.
It's a
And
show?
and they've got it booked up already.
It's a show?
Yeah, they're not even opening it until October. The thing's been being built for like 3 years now.
But how much is,
Relative discounts?
yeah, I was gonna say, how much is it if you work for P1?
I haven't found to get it down. Yeah, they might make me pay.
Yeah,
So
if I tell them, we know you, the price is double.
probably, probably. It's kind of funny. The guy that's project, Barton Mallow's general contractor, and the project manager and I, became friends in the project. But there were times at 8 o'clock at night, my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm screaming at this guy because they owed us money for like 4 months. I don't do that.
Yeah.
When you own your business at one point in time, you haven't taken a paycheck, you know how to collect money.
Yeah.
Ask him. He's the one that takes stuff off people's houses or buildings, not houses. He's like, "Excuse me, fuck it, we're going to get this metal off the building. Let's go." Kind of funny. It was the city of Lee Summit. Next thing you know, we had a check. Anyway, back to Disney Springs. This is an area we do a lot of parking garages, both in. There's 2 companies that we work with a lot. Finfrock, they're they're like the largest precaster around. They're bigger than the precaster that's here. I can't remember the name here, but they're massive. They do that, and then we put the facade all the way around the perimeter. We did 3 parking garages at Disney Springs, and they're massive. They're between 4,500 and 6,000 cars per. The last one, we did 2 of them before we got here, and then when we started here, this is one of the first projects we did, and it was close to $6.5 million for all the aluminum
Can you
components
give
all
me
the way
some
around.
history on the plants? One of those you did, they went with real plants and you had to do a watering system and all that
The
stuff?
very first garage, this is the first one. This is the second one. This empty area over here is where the third one we just built. Okay, there's a pond over here and everything. The very first one down here, these plants are actually fake. The very first one, they were gonna put live plants in, and each one of those planters, we plumbed water lines and drain lines into each one. Then they came back and decided the cost of keeping those plants up is gonna be too much, so they went to China and bought these plants, and now all 3 of them have fake plants in it. So, but it was neat figuring out how to get the water and plumbing in each one of those planters. This is a job we just finished up recently. It's Arizona Biltmore. It's a Waldorf Astoria Hotel in
That thing's
Phoenix.
that thing's awesome.
Frank Lloyd Wright, an old hotel was built in the late 1800s. They just got done renovating it. This is the big area out in in the middle of all the hotel. It's a big bar basically. And we did all the structural steel, all the aluminum panels on the whole thing. The structural steel is kind of like an egg crate, and then there's either round or square aluminum tube decorations in between those. How big are those openings? Like 4 foot by 4 foot, right?
That's 6 by
6
6.
by 6.
Center line steel.
And then this big flower, this is the main bar. So this is all curved. So this tube, you can see how it varies. It starts getting smaller. That's not a tube. We made all that to look like a tube, all fully welded. It's not cast glass, which is pretty similar to cast glass. And then it's got a piece on the top for the Art Deco feature. They've got TVs that wrap around it. Ted heads up, the way we've got this thing set up, I'm the guy that can take the design, take the original thought and put some numbers to it. He's the guy that sits there and goes, "Okay, you're full of shit. This is how we're really gonna have to do it to build it," right? So it works really good yin and yang between the 2 of us.
But if you can go back to that, so they finished this thing, Alan had some pretty incredible pictures of the entire construction process. That thing's massive, and like I said, it just like sprouts out of the middle of the bar. The bar's all around that center section. But then the owner sent him that picture where it's all backlit, just like at night, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, the neat thing about this job, this was for Bree Hotels, and Bree Hotels they're a silo of Blackstone. Blackstone is probably one of the biggest financial companies in the world. We're actually, Dave's working with them on, you're going up to 15th and do the first one for them in Atlanta. But this particular job, we got our electrical division involved. We did the coordination of all the sprinkler lines that are in this thing, electricity, low voltage, we did all that coordination, Ted and his team did. So we ran every piece of conduit to save time in the field. We ran every piece of conduit here and put it on the steel before it shipped out. That way they only had to pull wire behind us and do makeup boxes. So, but we had to take all that, go ahead, Ted.
That was P1 electricians that did that.
Right, right.
So not to be self-serving, but, so now can we take the next step and do all the AV side of these kind of projects? And
Absolutely.
Can we look at rolling that up into
Absolutely.
the digital boards, the screens, the?
Yeah, and on P220, our electrical guys did some stuff on that too. But yeah, that is one thing that I try to do, is try to get the whole company involved with stuff. I mean, the stuff that Dave's doing, you know, with Setmetrics and the quality air stuff, you know, that people that I hooked them up with, and I'm thinking about how we tie everything together all the time.
Be great.
Right.
We'd love to talk about that.
Every, you know, we don't do fire sprinkler. We've been begged to do fire sprinkler. They begged us to do this in this job. They begged us to do it in P220 because their fire sprinkler guys were shit.
Yeah.
So, and we're like, well, that's one thing we don't do. It's like, well, maybe we need to. We had a company that we work with all the time, AOA. I was in Orlando, not last week, the week before, and they're asking us to get into the, not pyrotechnic, because they said, don't say pyrotechnic, because that's fireworks. All the explosion, the flame, stuff like that for shows. Universal Studios is building their 4th park right now, and it's covered with flame-type pyrotechnics, right? And they want us to get involved with that. And they've got people that have done it for a long number of years with Disney that want to work with us to develop that, because there's only 2 companies in the United States that do it.
You cool with that, Don? Did he leave?
Bruce knows about it. He's supposed to be
Oh.
talking to somebody.
Okay.
Frank's still here.
So, yeah, it's kind of neat the way they were explaining to me. The stuff that they've done is they basically have big gas bubbles underwater,
Yeah.
and they pop them and blow them up at the same time. So, hey, I'm gonna stay away from that.
Yeah.
You guys tear it up, I'm gonna make it look pretty. This is Star Wars. So we built 3 of these big, massive guns. We worked with a company, an engineering company in Minnesota. They did the barrel of this actually moves. So, but all the structure you see, all the aluminum panels all the way around it, all that, you know, kind of, we've got hundreds of pictures, but all the, you know, individual components of things. Ted and I were just talking about this the other day, all these components that these are all pieces and parts that were fully welded to make that shape. You know, we've been talking about, you know, when we got into SolidWorks, it was to how we can streamline going from shop drawings to fabrication tickets, and SolidWorks really does that. You pull pieces of parts out and take it right to our laser and punch. The next thing's 3D printing. I mean, that's going to happen. So, you know, we want to try to get out ahead of that, right?
What's the gun in the lower right-hand corner?
That was just an extra barrel, and the people that we work with, AOA, they're kind of an owner's rep. They're all ex-Disney employees. We had an extra barrel that we priced in for them, so they painted it up their own way and hung it from their office. They've got all kinds of stuff hanging in their office that we've made for them on other jobs.
Cool.
So,
There's actually 3 of those in Anaheim and 3 of them in Orlando.
right,
So
in
3
both Star Wars.
park.
Oh, wow. But you can't say Star Wars, so a lot of this stuff has code names, because,
We can now. It's open.
okay.
Yeah, it's Star Wars.
That was Alcatraz.
That was
That was
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, yeah, right,
Yeah. But as soon as it's open, we can do whatever.
yeah,
It's just during the process, you're under NDA.
yeah.
So you're not even supposed to take pictures during the process, and we do it every day. So, a little bit about our facility. When Smitty and Bruce, you know, decided to do this, they wanted to keep what we do since it's so unique separate. So we're over in Kansas, Missouri. We've got a 32,800 square foot facility there. 30,000 of it's dedicated to our shop. We put a pretty heavy investment in equipment. The only old piece of equipment we have is a shear that we got from the old the sheet metal shop that we rarely use. Everything that we do goes through our Trump CNC turret, or not turret, linear press, and our 3,000 watt fiber optic laser. So we're pulling pieces and parts, sending them right to both those machines. Obviously, programming a laser is a lot easier than a punch because you've got one tool and a laser, and a punch, that rail holds 25 different tool holders. So
And it takes it can hold 2 sheets, so you can
The-
program it and leave, and it'll,
the laser has got a table that you can put 2 sheets on and walk away.
yeah,
So if something takes a long time to cut, you know, 3-4 hours, and you wanna do it at night, you put 2 sheets on and get, you know, it'll cut them. Now, they make robotic tables that'll hold a hell of a lot more sheets. So, but we didn't think we needed that.
You don't have any examples, do you?
I didn't bring any.
So, the P1 holiday party here, how many years ago was that? Last or 2 years ago? We didn't have one last year.
Then we did the little P1s with the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
Stars.
the little stars and the, you know, it's a flat piece of metal and but you twist it and then it's 3-dimensional and they cut all those out. And then when we kind of first started doing shop tours, just to give people an idea, Alan set that thing up to, Alan Ted, their group set that up to cut little tiny P1, and I mean, these things will fit on my fingertip and you're just burning these things out and it's pretty amazing the stuff they do. Then you
Well,
have.
a neat deal, I mean, that's the stars over there in the flag, those were, that blue area, it's kind of an interesting thing about that. That all started out to be mirrored stainless steel, like the silver stripes there, that's mirrored stainless steel. The blue area, we cut the stars out in the laser, but we left just a little tip, top and bottom, so we could push them and twist them and give them that 3D effect. The other, we put a kind of a weird finish on. Then we sent it over to our painter, and our painter, that is actually not colored stainless steel. That is actually tinted paint, tinted powder coat to get those colors.
Huh.
So you can still see the effect of the stainless below it.
Yeah.
It's kind of transparent, you know, translucent. So anyway, that's a good example of what a laser can do.
Yeah.
You guys ever use high pressure water to cut things?
Don't do any water. We've used water jet cutting before, but we don't do it in-house now. Water is not as precise a cut as the laser is. Okay. Water has its purposes though, right? Just like plasma, a plasma cut is different than a laser cut is different than a water cut, right? So you can be a little bit more precise with laser. You could take a part and cut it out and put it back in where it was, and it's almost so tight that it would fit.
Wow.
Water's a little bit bigger. The thing with water, laser uses nitrogen, oxygen, and then what else when it's, use nitrogen and oxygen when you're together when you're cutting aluminum.
Depending on thickness.
Yeah, but there's different mixtures, but it's basically nitrogen and oxygen. Whereas water, it depends on what you're cutting, the aggregate that you use. I mean, they clear from diamond to almost sand to cut. But the water itself will not cut.
Yeah.
Is that the end?